I would like to introduce 4 basic approaches to knowledge in a sort of a historical discussion. 2 of them will be naively optimistic, and 2 of them will be a bit sober, pessimistic. Of course, renowned Francis Bacon, who perceived the dominance of empirical research at the expense of a library education, sets the goal of science in a way that science should provide benefits and advantages to the life itself, and in this sense, he said the well-known phrase, "Knowledge is power," and also in connection with his utopia of New Atlantis, he said the society should examine the cause and hidden motions of things and enlarge the boundaries of human empire to the affecting of all things possible. The human empire is emphasized. Well-known Auguste Comte, who, based on the successes of the Industrial Revolution, continues with similar intentions, he perceives science of the positive philosophy as an endeavor to capture the invariance, and in this sense he sees the positive philosophy as something that he wants to know and systematize, but he literally says that only the positive philosophy is allowed to rule according to the natural course of things. That is the meaning of the famous Comte's tenet, from knowledge to prediction and from prediction to action. In the 20th century, the mankind is slowly beginning to sober up from these naive ideas, and critical philosophers are beginning to appear. One of them was Michel Foucault, who says that the truth is not separated from the power, and not only in the positive sense, but also in the sense of violence. It is not excluded from governmental relations, and anything that proceeds along with the truth is firmly grasped by relation. The truth usually does not lack power, and the value of the truth is bounded by a narrow space-time. In this sense, Michel Foucault considers the scientific discourse to be the main establishment of the truth, and he considers ethics and politics to be a truth-producing field as well as, and he speaks about the ambiguousness of power. I will not speak about this approach any further, but we can mention another critical concept brought by Martin Heidegger. Heidegger himself says that a researcher is expressed and asserted in this context at the expense of an apprentice. The operating character of science is rising, heuristics is not utilized in science as it should be, which leads to so-called obliteration of things by science, and in this sense, Heidegger's criticism of people's attitude towards the existence itself is as if the existence was a source of supplies that can be bargained over the advance. Heidegger himself was no eco-philosopher, but these thoughts are still up to date. If I can make an implication, most probably into physics, it is a purposeful processing that tries to present the existence to the mankind as an object that can be seen. Objectification is a mankind's intervention into the existence. Heidegger was an ingenious visionary who spoke about such phenomena as different concepts of mathematical physics that sadly do not or almost do not have any correlation with an empirical research. Basically, it is a critical view of a philosopher who, I may say so, outran science via vision by at least several decades. The ideal of unification of knowledge and science, this ideal is obsolete. Even Hilbert dreamt about the program which was named after him in mathematics, and as a formalist he was striving for creation of an ambitious project through which the risk of intuitionism and logicism could be avoided. However, we know very well that Hilbert's program was cancelled by Kurt Gödel, and even though that mathematics tries to make an impact in similar intentions, for example, through the means of the former renowned and very influential concept of the Bourbakisti group. It can be said that even their followers realize the importance of respecting the validity of Kurt Gödel's theorem. There are also numerous attempts in physics to establish different types of theories based on different principles. The most renowned attempt is probably Einstein's effort to develop the unified field theory. He strived for this ideal through the means of geometrization of physics. The important thing for us, besides science that is undoubtable, necessary and purposeful, is that we have a different supply of knowledge which can, besides other subdisciplines, of course, provide a meaningful testimony about science without using the language of science. This means that the testimony is promised in the meta-language of science, however, without the claim for any kind of integrity, besides different disciplines. Besides that, the supply views the knowledge and the whole world from the viewpoints that cannot be provided by science, because science is unable to provide such viewpoints. This is why the philosophy's task is irreplaceable to a certain extent, in the sense of knowledge disciplines. Due to the fact that philosophy is irreplaceable, the same applies to the task in the education system, and this is where we dare to say that it should not be absent at any level of theoretical education, and this applies to the general and applicative level as well. In this sense, an opportunity for education of philosophy presents itself even at vocational schools or colleges, and especially at secondary schools. And at this point, we dare to say that in order to achieve complex education, its funding, with regard to disproportion of Sollen and Sein, comparison of Sollen and Sein, should be doubled, at least from my point of view, if we truly want to create an effect of good universal base of these types of schools. It is equally important from the educational point of view of non-philosophical study fields at universities, where the task is to enhance the part of philosophy which is more or less relevant to the studied field of study. I think that the desired secondary school educational standard, especially secondary grammar school, which was mentioned by Ambassadress Ganeva, of the philosophical study field should be at a higher level, much higher than at the current level, because enormously undersized. As a result of this, the philosophical knowledge of our secondary school graduates is low. I give lectures at a study program of applied ethics in many cases. Not in each case, but in many of them, I have to teach the students of the secondary schools and secondary grammar schools from scratch, because I think that they lack the knowledge from secondary schools, and I have to substitute the role of secondary school teachers. Otherwise, I would not be able to teach them a thing. Basically, by relieving the philosophy of the positive attitude of ancilla scientiae, and by discovering new dimension of metaphysics, for example, analytical metaphysics, the space for philosophy is being restored. New tasks in combination with intensive cooperation of various sciences expose philosophers to new situations in which they have to cooperate with specialized scientists. Due to this, a shared epistemological value of science and philosophy should be proclaimed in the education of a knowledgeable society. However, curriculums need to be adjusted according to the situation, not only at universities but at secondary schools, especially at the universal ones. Once philosophy and biological science is currently undersized by Mikolai's educational reform are balanced, we can hope for an improvement of knowledge of the society. If the knowledgeable society of the future generation of Europe really is supposed to be knowledgeable, we cannot close our eyes in the given circumstances. Thank you for your attention.